Good evening, Erev Tov, Chanukah Sameach to all of you. My friends, the poets and writers, and to the audience that I cannot see, but I know that they are there. I would like to open this special event. This is an international event with 13 poets and writers right now from Israel and different other countries. And we will light the fifth candle with poems and prose. I would like to invite Czvika to open this evening with blessing. And I would like also to take this opportunity and to thank the Writers Association, the Hebrew Writers Association, for taking care of this special event, for this initiation, and to give some hope in this darkness around us. בבקשה, צביקה.
Good evening, friends, authors, poets from around the world, and poets from Israel, members of the Hebrew Writers Association taking part in that event, each from their home, everybody from his home. We are the living proof that the candle's flare, which marks the Hanukkah holiday, can not only brighten the darkness, physically or metaphorically, but also melt away borders, shorten distances, and contact us all into a big torch. In November of last year, we held the Kisufim meetings in Jerusalem, in which some of you were actively involved, as I remember. Since then, the world has turned upside down, and we all had to adjust ourselves to the new conditions, which were forced on us. I therefore thought it would be very appropriate, especially in times like this, to hold a different kind of Kisufim meeting. My purpose, the chairman, not only to continue and strengthen the connection between Israeli writers and our colleagues around the world, but also to demonstrate to the world, to leaders and governments, that in such days, when darkness is upon us, our job as people of culture to maintain the light of art and creation, and even more strongly than even before. Just as the non-Israeli writers come from many different countries, we chose Israeli poets from different regions in Israel, north, south, east, and center, to represent different genres of poetry. I wish to convey my utmost gratitude to all of you for making the effort to take part in this evening. I view it as one of the most significant events which the Writers Association of Israel has even taken upon during these times. Finally, maybe it's symbolic, but these days, 54 years ago, the author and the Jewish writer Shai Agnon received the Nobel Prize with Nelly Sachs, December 1966. For me, it's very symbolical that we meet here together in that day. I wish to thank Hava Pinchas Cohen, the initiator and the driving force behind Kisufim, who will be hosting this event. Meir Uziel, who is in charge of the production, and to Nira Tuval, the general manager of the association, for her organization efforts and support. I hope that we will soon be able to meet face to face as a year ago in literature events and not only virtually. And again, may you have a pleasant evening and a very happy Hanukkah. As we say in Yiddish, Chag Sameach.
חג שמח.
חג שמח. I invite Yotam Cohen, the singer, to bless, to light the candles.
Opera singer.
opera singer. Where are you, Yotam?
Here I am.
Voila.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של חנוכה.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשה ניסים לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה.
אמן.
Thank you very much, Yotam.
Thank you.
I wish that, and I hope that this light will cross all the borders that we feel and live these days. The light of Hanukkah, any light. This is the light of December. I'm very excited about this event and about meeting again friends and new friends also. It's a continuation of this idea of kisufim, that kisufim in Hebrew means yearning, for those who doesn't know, yearnings, kisufim. And this idea of having a kind of network of writers and poets that are in connection, in continuation, and have subjects that we know about each other. And the first one that I will invite is Miriam Anisimov. Miriam is a French writer. She participated, I think, 3 times in Kisufim. I think she's a partner and a colleague for this idea. And I'll read some words, some lines from her biography, and then she will read from her new novel that was not translated yet. Miriam Anisimov was born in 1943 in a refugee camp in Switzerland, where her parents, both from Poland, took refuge in November 1942. In 1966, Miriam Anisimov arrived to Paris, where she became an actress and singer. Anisimov published her first novel, Comment Varachel, in 1973. 11 novels will follow. Among them, La Soie et le Cendre.
La Soie et les Cendres.
Les Cendres. Jour Nocturne, His Majesty the Death, published in 1999 at the Seuil, and that was also translated into Hebrew. Lately, I interviewed Miriam for a radio show, and I asked her if the fact that she was born in a refugee camp to survivors affected her writing, and she answered that it is following all her life. I don't know about this new novel, but she will tell us. Please, Miriam.
This new novel is about my whole childhood, but about the death of my mother, because I was brought up in a family, a Stalinist family. So I did not know very few about Judaism, like you practice here. My Malmölution was Yiddish, so I was looking at the world through Yiddish and Stalin. It's a very funny childhood. My father was a Yiddish writer, and they were making des vêtements.
Clothing.
And I was brought up around with machine and everything. And discovered Judaism late. But this book is about all the consequences of being a little child in Lyon, in France, surrounding with the Catholic surrounding, very anti-Semitic, and being the only Jew in the whole school, the only Jew girl in gymnasium, with the mother and father so communist, hysteric communist. So it's a kind of story of the 50s, and it's also the story about the first year of my life, because I was in a very at the time, my mother was in a camp in Moudon, in Switzerland, was a very bad camp, and all the children were sick. And I was so sick that I was in the hospital during 1 year. I stood 1 year in hospital, and I was saved by a nun, because the doctor said there was nothing to do with me, that I will die. So the nun took the responsibility to take care of me during 1 year, and she saved my life. So I have two mothers, and it's also the story of this woman who sacrificed 1 year of his life staying by my bed day and night, and that I found when I was only 26. I went to meet her in Switzerland in her convent. So it's a lot of stories about that until I was maybe 25 years old. It's my building. It's a building roman, I will say. But what I will read is not that, because I will read you the last novel. A part of my last novel was published in 2 years before, in France, and I got a prize with this book from Académie Française. And this small part is built on 3 stories, but it's very complicated to explain it. But simply, it's a story of Romain Gary that I met, the big famous conductor Sergiu Celibidache that I met too, and very closely, and the young brother of my mother that I discovered 50 years after that he was gassed in Sobibor. So it's a kind of story of the century, of the 20th century, through the war.
Okay.
And what I will read to you, it's my meeting with Romain Gary, the French famous writer Romain Gary, who was born in Villeneuve and was in France very, very famous, and who committed suicide in 1982 with a pistol in his head. And I met him 2 years before his death. And we had a very special relationship during 3 or 4 months. And I am also his biographer. I published in 2004 a very big biography of Romain Gary, was translated into Russian. So, yeah. If you want, I will read you. You will.
Yes, we are looking.
The sound of the French prose. It's the moment that I discovered in the street Romain Gary that I met 1 hour before on a television set. We were both invited to present our books, and I get out of the studio and I see him on the street. Je roulais très lentement avenue Bosquet. C'est alors que je le vis, grand, massif, parfaitement immobile, ses bottes dépassant légèrement de l'arête du trottoir, comme si, du bord d'une falaise, Romain Gary allait se jeter dans le vide. L'avenue était déserte. La lumière, ce début d'après-midi, venait de la Seine, lui faisant une sorte d'auréole. Je ralentis encore, laissant ma voiture s'immobiliser devant lui, de sa propre inertie. Gary monta sans un mot, cela allait de soi. Je lui proposai de le reconduire chez lui. Je lui dis alors que j'avais ressenti une urgence à ne pas le laisser seul à l'angle de la rue Cognac-Jay et de l'avenue Bosquet. Avant de me quitter, il me proposa de venir regarder l'émission chez lui, puis glissa dans ma main un très petit morceau de papier arraché à son agenda, sur lequel il avait noté son numéro de téléphone, et me demanda le mien. Il me ferait signe quand il connaîtrait la date de diffusion, dit-il d'une voix douce, dans laquelle je reconnus un léger accent d'Europe orientale. Il disparut sous le porche d'un hôtel particulier. J'aperçus au-delà de la voûte une vaste cour et tout au fond, une grille de grands arbres masquant partiellement la façade d'une maison de maître. Tandis qu'il montait chez lui, je restais quelques minutes sans démarrer. Je n'avais nulle envie de rentrer chez moi. J'allais vers le désert de ma vie, avec le désert de mourir dans cette ville où j'avais pourtant par-dessus tout voulu vivre. Mais nous n'en sommes pas là, et peut-être n'y serons-nous jamais. Romain Gary avait marché sans se retourner et avait disparu à droite sous la voûte de l'immeuble dont l'entrée était pourvue d'une grille. Il avait feint une parfaite indifférence à mon égard. Je ne savais rien de lui, excepté sa célébrité, son air sombre et arrogant. Il m'appela le lendemain, et 2 jours plus tard, je pénétrai dans cette maison aristocratique, pris l'ascenseur aux parois de verre, et tandis que la cabine montait lentement, admirai les volutes de la rampe en fer forgé. Gary me fit ouvrir par sa bonne espagnole. Elle me dévisagea d'un air insolent, d'un air qui signifiait « encore une », tout en m'introduisant dans un salon de vastes proportions. Les murs étaient lambrissés de liège et enlaidis par d'affreuses toiles à dominante noirâtre. Les aplats de couleur brune et chaotique sur ce fond charbonneux évoquaient du vomi. Les persiennes étaient tirées devant la porte-fenêtre d'un de ces balcons étroits qu'on trouve souvent au 2e étage des immeubles du faubourg Saint-Germain.
Merci beaucoup, Myriam.
Non, je vais finir là. Attends. Leave me, there are 3 lines more because it's not like that. It's stupid. Au fond à droite, comme dans un corps de théâtre, il y avait une porte à double battant qui, j'allais bientôt le découvrir, donnait accès à la chambre et à la salle de bain de Gary. 1 minute. Il entra par cette porte, la mine sombre, les cheveux longs lissés en arrière dans le cou, les lèvres sinueuses, le teint basané. Il s'assit face au divan, garni de fourrure où je me l'étais laissé tomber. Ses yeux étaient d'un bleu intense et translucide, comme on en voit aux Afghans et aux Yézidis, semblables aux yeux de cette petite fille yézidi, dont le visage auréolé de cheveux blancs hanta pendant quelques jours les magazines quand les assassins de l'État islamique envahirent son visage. Était-elle encore en vie? On ne pouvait échapper aux yeux de Gary, je ne pouvais échapper à son regard.
Merci beaucoup. Wow. Je vais dire, I would like to say also that Miriam Anisimov wrote a biography of Gary, of Primo Levi, that is, from my point of view, it's excellent and interesting. And another one of Wasserman.
No, Vasily Grossman.
Vasily Grossman, סליחה, Vasily Grossman, the Jewish Russian writer that was killed by Stalin. But, well, I recommend to meet Miriam Anisimov again. Thank you, Miriam.
Bye.
And I would like to invite Keren Elkalai from Israel. Keren, where are you here?
Here.
Keren,
I am here. Should I speak English? Should I speak Hebrew?
You can use both, but
French.
Wonderful.
But I would like you to present yourself. It will be better for me.
Okay. I was, all right, my name is Keren Elkalai. I was born in London near the end of the war to refugees who spoke Yiddish and Esperanto at home. And once I discovered that English was what everyone else was speaking, I started to cling to that language, and I studied until I became a professor of English poetry at Tel Aviv University. So even though I've lived in Hebrew most of my life, I write primarily in English, sometimes in Hebrew, most recently a book in Yiddish. I've had books translated into Italian, Spanish, and French, but many more in Hebrew, and of course, many more original books in English. I publish usually in the United States. I'm chair of the Israel Association of Writers in English, and of course I belong to the Yiddish writers too, and the Hebrew writers, and so I feel like what I can do is transcend borders in language, and even understand Miriam's wonderful French about Roman Gary. And I hope that we can all understand each other. אני צריכה לעבור לעברית עכשיו, שאני... או שאתם כבר...
את יכולה להישאר באנגלית, כי יש לך קהל שלא מבין עברית.
אוקיי.
נשמח אם תקראי.
If we find the poem, if you can see it, can you see it? What I was going to write about light. I was going to send something about light.
Yeah, this is it.
And then, so you can see it.
Sure.
I realized that everyone is writing about light, and I have something more that is transcending, not the light, but experience. This experience of what we're all of our cultures together, and the poem is called Suitcase. Let me put all the poems in a suitcase and carry with me everywhere, like mulch, like gravy, I say, not separate spots of time with their renovating virtue, but blended, losing all sense of separateness, temperature, subject-object distinction. And when I pass through customs and open the grip, the mist will rise through the airport, transforming all the travelers, and they too will become carriers of poetry.
Thank you so much. תודה רבה לך, קרן. אני רק רוצה להגיד שבעברית התרגום הוא מסע לחול. הבה נארוז את כל השירים במזוודה ונטלטל אותם לכל מקום, שיהיו כמו דשן, כמו רוטב וכולי. אני לא יודעת מי תרגם, אבל יש טיפה stuff. I would like to invite Gerardo Levin from Buenos Aires. He is a poet, he is a translator, he is a wonderful person that lately I become to know, and I would like to invite him to read his poem, and even if you would like to introduce yourself. ג'רארדו, אתה תרצה לומר כמה מילים על עצמך?
טוב, אין הרבה מה להגיד.
Can you do it in English?
Okay. I can try, sure. I live in Buenos Aires. I lived in Israel for almost 10 years. I started as an actor. I was in Israel at Tel Aviv University studying theater direction. And then after some years, I turned back to Argentina, to Buenos Aires, and here I live. I am now a poet, and mostly I translate from Hebrew to Spanish poetry. Also fiction, but mostly poetry. And I published some of the participants in this reading to Spanish. Iran, Otach, Chava, Tirgamti, also translated. And I think that a poem, at least of Abichai Kmxi, I'm not sure, a poem about his mother.
Okay, so read your poem.
Okay, can I read it also in Hebrew?
Yes, go.
Okay, my poem is Tránsito. Lento avanza el tránsito. Pétreos estamos entre calles y calles. En vano fueron 1000 cartas enviadas desde un extremo al otro de mi vida. No sé cómo leerlas ya, ni qué he de responder. Aquí están como los fríos de pasadas hogueras. Tarde pasé por el lugar donde el poema estuvo. No traspuse el umbral de donde las palabras se suicidan saltando como polvo disperso de pasiones perdidas hacia ese abismo agazapado. Lento tránsito. Mientras tanto, voy abriendo las cartas una a una con fatigada ira, violento y triste, asesinando a puñaladas un recuerdo. Tinta desleída por los años, ilusiones que olvidaron morir. ועכשיו אני אקרא את זה בעברית, ברשותכם.
תרגמה תן ניצן.
בתרגומה הנפלא של תן ניצן. תנועה. לאט מתקדמת התנועה. מאובנים אנחנו בין רחובות ורחובות. לשווא נשלחו 1000 מכתבים מקצה אחד של חיי לאחר. שוב איני יודע איך לקרוא אותם, ומה עליי להשיב. הם כאן, כמו רמץ קר מבערות עבר. באתי למקום השיר מאוחר. לא עברתי את הסף שמילים מתאבדות אליו בקפיצה, כמו אבק שנזרע מלהט אבוד אל אותה תהום נסתרת. תנועה איטית. בינתיים אני פותח מכתב אחר מכתב בזעם יגע, אלים ועצוב, רוצח זיכרון בדקירה, דיו שדהתה עם השנים, אשליות ששכחו למות. זהו.
תודה רבה.
אין בעד מה. תודה לכם.
So much. And now I will ask Gabor Santo to read, but before that I will say that he is Hungarian novelist, essayist, and screenplay writer, and he was born in Budapest in 1966. I met Gabor in the cinema, in a movie festival here in Israel, when his movie that is based on his novel 1945 was screened, and I was fascinated, and I decided to invite him to see him. And here it happened, and I'm so happy. בבקשה, גבו.
Thank you, Hava. Hag Sameach.
Hag Sameach.
I wrote that short story that became a film approximately 15 years ago, 17 years ago, and it became a real international success. It was distributed in 40 countries, and it won many international prizes. Since then, the book, 1945 and Other Stories, was translated into Chinese and Italian, and it will come out in January. And another book of mine, Kafka's Cats, from which I will read a short portion. It was translated into Turkish and Czech. It's a parallel investigative novel. It's an investigation on Kafka, who is in the fiction, didn't die in 1924. So the afterlife of Kafka is one of the storyline of the novel, and the other storyline is the investigation on this phenomenon and on the Kafka heritage in all over Europe and in Israel when the great trial took place in the last 10 years. So I will read a portion from this book, right exactly that portion that takes place right after Kafka's death and his surviving. I will read it in Hungarian.
Please, okay, because of the time.
Kafka színlelt halálát lépésről lépésre megtervezték. Nem lehetett jelen senki más, csak Klopstock és Dóra. Klopstock borzongva vár, de szerzett egy tetemet. Még arra is ügyelt, hogy a hulla körülmetélt legyen, nehogy a halott mosdatásnál lebukjanak. Dórának és Francnak azt mondta, ne kérdezzék honnan, hogyan, csak annyit árult el, mindig van olyan halott a kórházakban, hullaházakban, akinek a temetéséről nem gondoskodik senki, és örülnek, ha nyomavész. Orvosként, kísérleti célra többen is ilyen forrásból szereznek tetemet. Freud érthetően távol akarta tartani magát ezektől az eseményektől. Az egyetlen módszer, amit a kezelés részeként javasolt, veszélyeztethette a presztízsét. Annyit vállalt, hogy azokban a napokban, amikor Franz halálát bejelentik, bármikor elérhető lesz betege számára, akinek Dóra, akkorra már kivette a bécsi szobát a Práter közelében. A kezelés nem volt olcsó, de Freud azt mondta, a beteg rövidesen munkaképes lesz, sőt a kezelés és a gyógyulás része, hogy minél hamarabb dolgozni kezdjen. Franz hitetlenkedett, de látszott rajta, hogy a hír felvillanyozta. Kafkát halála bejelentésének órájában ki kellett szöktetni a Hoffmann szanatóriumból, és eljuttatni Bécsbe a bérelt lakásba. A szanatórium munkatársait Klopstock tartotta szóval, a család kérését tolmácsolva, miszerint ragaszkodnak a vallási hagyományhoz, nem kívánnak boncolást. A család nevében aláírta az intézet vonatkozó okmányait, és a betegszobában letakart testet nem engedte megnézni senkinek.
Thank you. I don't know to say thank you in Hungarian, but thank you so much. Toda rabba.
Thank you. Bevakasha.
רגע. Where is my... I would like to invite now Eli'az Cohen, an Israeli poet. He is well known in Israel as one of the editors of Mashiv Ruach. It's magazine, literal magazine that survived for 30 years. How many? 25?
26, yes.
26 years. And would you like to represent yourself? אתה רוצה להציג את עצמך, אליעז?
אפשר לוותר על זה. תודה על ההצגה שכבר הצגת חווה, ותודה רבה, ועל כל המפעל הגדול של כיסופים, ועל הערב המיוחד הזה, במיוחד בזמן של מגפת הקורונה העולמית, כל כך חשוב להדליק את האור ולהדליק את השירה בלב, ובאמת להתגבר על הבדידות, על דלת האמות שנגזרו על כולנו, ממש במרחק של 2 מטר, זה אותו ביטוי עתיק של דלת אמות. ואני אקרא שיר שהוא בעצם היה סוג של חיסון עבורי, עוד לפני שפייזר וספוטניק וכל העולם רב על מי ישיג את החיסון הראשון. אני חושב שכל אחד מאיתנו כשהוא כותב, הוא יודע שהעוצמה של הכתיבה, לפחות עבורו, היא החיסון, ולפעמים אנחנו גם צריכים לתת את החיסון לאחרים, לתת מילים לאחרים, להעביר את זה הלאה. אז אני אקרא שיר שהוא בבחינת חיסון לקורונה. זה סוג של הזמנה למדיטציה שאני עושה לעצמי בשנה האחרונה, מתוך הספר החדש שלי. לפרוס שטיח אדום לכל נשימה שבאה, לכל תנועה דקה של אצבע מאצבעות ידיי, מאצבעות רגליי, לכל ברק מחשבה שחולף בתודעתי, וגם לאפר המחשבה. לפרוס שטיח אדום לכל אחד מילדיי, לקבל את פניו במאור גדול, לקבל את גופו בחיבוק, לדעת את פלאותו, את נדירותו, את אסירות תודתי עליו. לפרוס שטיח אדום לכל הרהור, חרטה, קצה דמיון, לגלגל חזרה במתינות ולהשיב לארון. תודה רבה וחנוכה שמח.
So much. תודה רבה, אליעז. And now I would like to invite Gondula Schiffer, a wonderful poet and translator. I think you'll introduce yourself, although I have your biography in front of me, but I don't know what to choose from your biography.
Yes,
but,
good evening. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you, Chava, for the invitation. And I'm looking back to Kisufim, which was in November, with much of longing. So I'm sitting in Germany in Cologne. I'm a poet and a translator from Hebrew. I translated Leah Goldberg, Tirzaata, Ronit Matalon, also you, Chava, Phinehas, Cohen, Yoshua Sobel. And yes, and I write poems in Hebrew and also in German and translate myself. And I'm actually working on a new poetry book right now, and I will read a poem out of this poetry book. And it was written in Hebrew actually, so I read the first stanza in Hebrew and then I go over into German.
I would like to add that Gondola, she is involved in different areas of Hebrew literature. I mean, this is only small part of her activity, and we will hear a lot about this special woman.
תודה רבה. The poem is called לסליחה על הקור. בא הסתיו, יום סגרי ראשון, וניפוח הקור, ורפיון האור, יוצרים ברוח של יגון אנוש, שמלווה את ליבי במערב מעתה הלאה, לרצף חודשים. במקור אני מאמינה בחסד אלוהים השלם, שכבר ישלח חום החגים לסליחה על הקור, והעתיג לנו במותק של עוגיות וחיבוקים מיותרים את כוכבי השמיים אל החלונות. So war es immer, Mädchen, erinnere dich, kein Grund zur Furcht. Du wirst die Finsternis als Freiraum preisen, die Notizen machen im Kopf und gemeinsam mit Tevet an hölderlinschen Tischen arbeiten. Und so stehlt ihr Gott ein Stück vom Geburtstagskuchen seines Debüts. Helen spielt mit heiligen Zeilen wie mit Feuerzeugen. Und Vater macht seine Augen, die Sterne am Fenster zu. Denn dies sind eure Sätze und ihre Flammen. Und in Sätzen geht es weiter, summend hinaus ins Nebenzimmer, das blass geworden ist und hustet. Seine letzten Blätter liegen verstreut, schwache Lichtblicker. So singst du vor dich hin Liebeszauber, bis eine Flocke Petit auf deiner Nasenspitze landet, 3 in einem. Blume der Saison, Kerze draußen, Segler und Freundesbesuch bei Frost. Wisse dann, der Winter ist ein trüber Schimmer, kaltes Zimmer. Und dennoch bleibt bei dir dieser kleine Wald dir lieber als jedes Weihnachtszimmer, als rheinische Grauzone, ohne den schmucken Trost eines übergleißenden Selbst so kahl und heiser stimmt dich ein zu Etüden für kommende Hymnen. תודה רבה. Thank you very much.
תודה רבה. ומעניין התרגום. It's very interesting to read the translation you did by yourself from German to Hebrew.
Yeah, this is what I write in. I would not have written this in German before. I need the Hebrew before to come to the German version. And in German, I write totally different things. And the things I write in German, I cannot translate myself into Hebrew. So then I need a translator. I can only translate myself. It's very, it's actually 2 voices or 2 different persons.
Well, that will be a good material for research. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I would like to invite Avichai Kmchi, an Israeli and very Yerushalmi poet. Avichai published lately 5 books. Am I right?
Never mind, 6.
Thank you so much. And well, you will tell about yourself. Read your poem.
Yes. So happy holiday, and thank you, Hannah. The poem I will read is from my book, Old Catamon, 2006, where there are poems of the child I was. There is one of them, his name is Light. אור. פנסים מעטים דלקו ברחובות החורף הירושלמי של שנות ה-70 המוקדמות, ובבתים ריצד אור פלוריסנטי חיוור וחסכוני. מסקי טלוויזיה בשחור לבן צבעו בחלחל קירות לבנים. יראתי את העלתה העוטפת וביקשתי את אלוהים. עד חנוכה הימים מתקצרים, ומחנוכה הם מתארכים. הייתה חוזרת ואומרת אמא, נרות החג האירו באור גדול וחם את המטבח הזעיר ואת הילד החרד. הנה מתקרבים הימים המוארים. Thank you, Father.
תודה רבה. Thank you so much. Hi. Now I have the pleasure and the honor to invite Anna Nashilowska from Warsaw, Poland. It's a great pleasure to meet you. I meet you the first time. I read as I could from English and Polish that you are a journalist and essayist and writer and poet, and you are also the chair of the Writers Association in Poland. So it's a great honor to have you with us. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you very much. I am also a professor I used to be journalist in not easy time, but now I am a professor of literature, and my latest book is a book on history of Polish literature, published about a year ago, and in this book, from the beginning of Polish literature, I tried to show not only Polish identity, also connections with Jewish literature, with other nation living together in Polish country, in Polish Republic, Old Republic, in its territory. And whatever I will write in future, it is a book of my life. But next year I will publish a book of poetry.
So first of all, congratulations for this book.
Yes, it was a very big work. It took me some years. I am glad that it is finished. It is already a book. Can
you say hello to Olga?
Yes.
On behalf of our association. For a long time I want to do that, but her Hebrew translation is a bestseller here in Israel. Yeah. I'm referring to Olga Tokarczuk, who had a Nobel Prize, and the last book is a bestseller in Israel. And say hello to her from behalf of our association. It's possible. I tried to invite her, but nobody gave me some answers. So through you, maybe I will convey our admiration also.
I will try to do it, but this year it was very big crisis in literary world in Poland, and Olga Tokarczuk left our association because some of great writers protested because one institution in Poland gave for the association money for booklets of poetry. Naturally, it was money from government. It was for governmental institution, and in this situation of crisis, people are very one against another, can't collaborate. It is for Poland now very bad time. And I suppose sometimes you have on headlines very massive protests in Warsaw, protest against anti-abortional law.
Yeah. Anyhow, I tried. If you have any connection with her, I will.
Yes, but it made me pleasure that this book, I know which book.
It's a long name. I didn't translate it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it shows how near is Polish culture and Jewish culture.
Absolutely.
I would like to say that it was translated into Hebrew long before she got the Nobel Prize. And I know her translator and the people that helped her with all the information about Jewish history and Jewish...
And the Polish history also and everything, yeah.
No, I'm speaking now those who helped from the Jewish side, not from the Polish side. Yeah. And they were working on it long before she got the prize. And it's really, it was an evidence of this importance of this book and specialty. So you are our messenger to tell her that we are happy with her.
Yeah, I just want to add that the Polish literature was very popular in Israel all over the years. I remember being a young guy, I read Vladislav Raymond also, yeah, and I hope that our relationship will be strengthened after this meeting here in the Zoom.
Yeah, after meeting. So you are invited to read, Anna.
So for this meeting, I wrote a poem short about our time now. I will read it in Polish, then in English, in translation. Żegnając rok 2020. Oto nowy świat. Nie jest wspaniały. Nie wychodź z domu. Mogą cię dopaść i udusić. Może cię dopaść i udusić niewidoczna kulka z różyczkami, w którą nie wszyscy wierzą. Nic to. Masz przyjaciół w internecie. Jest ich kilka tysięcy. Niektórych znasz, niektórzy żyją, tylko są rozproszeni i trochę niestabilni, jak nasze połączenie. So, in English, goodbye 2020. This is the new world. It's not great. Don't leave home. You can't be taken bed and suffocated by invisible marbles with roses that not everybody believes in. Never mind. You have many friends on the internet, few thousand. Some of them, you know, some of them are alive. They are just scattered and unstable, as is our connection.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And now I would like to invite our new friend from Poland, Piotr Pozinski. Am I right? Yeah. He's a writer, editor, poet. You'll tell about yourself. You're welcome, Piotr.
Welcome. Hi, everyone. Chag Sameach. I never was a poet. I'm a writer and translator and editor. I for many years I edited the cultural journal, the Jewish monthly magazine called Midrash.
Forgive me for giving you this.
Yeah, and I never in my life produced any poem, but I wrote a few books on essays and a few books of literary pieces. I translated. I'm translating from Hebrew in English into Polish. I translated some Israeli, and Hebrew writers. This is my last work. It's about 1 month. It's in Polish. It's called Przysięga Wierności. It's Shavuot Emunim by Shai Agnon that I translated quite recently, and this is my previous one, Shai Agnon, Agodat, הסופרים, and Sipurim Acherim. It's 12 altogether, including the well-known stories like Eidoveinam and Agunot and other things, Teila. So I put it in one volume and translated a few years and packed it. It was the first big edition of Shai Agnon presenting into Polish. So I also translated Aleph Bet Yehoshua, and I translated Amos Oz, his book that he wrote with his daughter on Jews and books.
Yes.
I studied in Jerusalem. I lived in Israel for a couple of years, sharing my times between my family in Jerusalem and my home in Warsaw. But my primary work is right now is to write fiction and to write literary essays on. I wrote a book on James Joyce, so I spent a lot of time on Joyce Ulysses, and I wrote fiction. So I will read you one or two paragraphs from my book called The Board. It's called Pensionat in Poland, but in Polish it was called in boarding house. In English, unfortunately, it has been translated into 10 languages, or 12 languages. Unfortunately, there's no Hebrew translation. I don't know why, but my
very important comment.
You know what? I have big family in Jerusalem and over Israel, over the Haaretz. So some of my cousins do read English, but some of them do not. And they really love to read in Hebrew and to understand my more diasporic, point of view than they more Hebrew and Israeli. So I do hope maybe one day they will read it. So I will read it, just 1 or 2 paragraphs. It's about my childhood in a Jewish boarding house called Pension nearby Warsaw, and it starts like a celebration. It starts from the words Bereshit. Na początku były tory kolejowe, w zieleni między niebem a ziemią, ze stacjami jak korale na rzemyku, nanizanymi tak ciasno, że nim pociąg zdążył się na dobre rozpędzić, już musiał zwalniać przed następnym przystankiem. Betonowe perony, wąskie i chybotliwe, wyposażone w drabinki i strome schodki, wyrastały wprost z piasku, jakby je wzniesiono na wydmach. Pawilony stacyjne miały w sobie coś ze staroświeckich kiosków, wydłużony, wygięty daszek, a na 2 jego końcach ażurowe litery, które zdawały się unosić w powietrzu. Zawsze lubiłem je podglądać, począwszy od pierwszej stacji podmiejskiej, kiedy to zwarta zabudowa prędko ulega rozproszeniu, a świat zaczyna się rozszerzać do niespotykanych wcześniej rozmiarów. If you like to, I can read it in English, or if I spare my time, so it's.
No, we can see it in English.
Oh, you can see it in English. Oh,
yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I would like to add just one sentence that one of the reasons that I established Kisufim was, or created Kisufim, was that the shelf of Jewish literature from different languages will be translated to Hebrew. That's, from my point of view, it's very important. Writers, Jewish writers all over the world are like sages in the past, and they should be translated. They are telling the story of our times, and it's about time that it will be translated. And maybe we will speak about later how we can do it. So thank you so much, Piotr, and I'm so happy to have you with us. And I would like to ask Guy Phinkelstein, a young poet, writer, and I think, I cannot read it, a person that I understand that's very initiative in Hebrew literature. בבקשה, Guy, את מוזמנת.
Thank you. Not that young, I'm 38, yeah. Okay.
At least younger generation.
Thank you, I accept it. Okay, so I'll read an optimistic poem, small poem for this evening, for Hanukkah. I will read in Hebrew, and you have over there the English version?
Yes.
Thank you. בין כל הדברים שאני רוצה, אני לפעמים שוכחת שיש דברים שרוצים אותי, ואני עדיין לא יודעת שהם. גם עכשיו אני בטוחה, יש שם משהו שסופר את הדקות עד שאגיע. Thank you.
תודה רבה לך. It's beautiful. And now I would like to ask Keren Tslegov from Be'er Sheva, a poet, translator, writer, a multi-talent person. ערב טוב, ערן.
שלום, שלום, שלום לכולם.
שלום, חג שמח.
חג שמח.
הנה עכשיו ערן צלגוב, רגע. לא שומעים אותי, אני על מיוט.
אני הזמנתי את ערן צלגוב, צביקה.
כן. כן, אז אני אקריא שיר על חושך, שמדבר על המתח בין אור לחושך. ברשותכם, אני אקרא אותו בעברית, את האנגלית יהיה לכם לצידי מיד, נכון?
כן.
לב המעפליה. כמה אור צריך אדם כדי לראות שחושך? יש הבהוב והוא מילה כמו עוול או רצח, אך הוא כבה ברוח שערת היום. ובלילה כשלבד מול המילים המרצדות על המסך, והסדקים בו נפערים ואור קטן לו בזווית העין, הוא רוצה לשבור. והוא ניגש אל הילדים הישנים, הוא מחבק את המאורות הכי גדולים שלו, הוא מתפלל עד אור ראשון, שלא יראו עוד חושך לעולם.
Thank you so much. Well, it's really about the tension between the light and the darkness. Thank you so much. תודה, ערן. ועכשיו לצביקה שטרנפלד. Now to צביקה שטרנפלד. Good evening, צביקה. ערב טוב.
Good evening, ערב טוב. Bonsoir, добрый вечер, whatever you want. Not in Hungarian sort.
You'll introduce yourself. I tried to count your books. It took me quite time to count them. Can you tell?
You're right. So till now I've published 12 books, one translation, and this month there is going to be another translation from Polish. Piotr, Anna Ginchanka, you probably know her, and Anna also. So this month Anna Ginchanka, not Anna but Ginchanka will come out in a bilingual edition, Polish-Hebrew. So this is going to be my 14th or 15th book if you include them in your counting.
Congratulations.
Anyway, I promise myself that next time I change my family name, I'm going to call myself A. Aronovich or whatever. Because with my name, Sternfeld, I'm always last. Always, in every event.
Okay.
Cvika has heard me saying that I'm sorry that Shlonsky has died already before me.
Yeah.
You know, because it's always going by ABC and Sternfeld is almost always last.
But you are welcome to it.
So anyway, that's the number of books I've published. Now you talked about light. I was thinking that Hanukkah, there should be happiness about light. But I found in my poetry that there is very little happiness that has to do with light. And also, this poem is, the elder I get, the shorter my poems get. So this is a 3-line poem. It's good for the last person anyway. It's called in Hebrew Migdalor. Popolsku for the Polish people, it's Latania Morska, then later Latarnia Morska. Later I will read it in English. מגדלור. מגדלור שלקה בהקמת, מבלבל את השחייה הנשברת אל חופיו. Now in English, a lighthouse. A lighthouse hit by scoliosis confuses the swim that breaks at its shores. That's all, it's short, 3 lines. It's not prose, it's poetry. And for the people who want to know in other languages, well, in German, they all speak Hebrew, so I don't need to tell them how it's in German. But it's Leuchtturm, if anyone wants to know. So that's it. If you have any questions, there I am.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for the reading.
Otherwise, it's a short one.
Yeah. Thank you for the reading. Thank you for attending. Thank you for gathering with us. And before I will close this special evening, it's a special evening for me too. It wasn't easy. It was easy to decide to make it. It wasn't easy to make it come true. But I hope that this will lead to more evenings like that, more international evenings, and that we can gather, we can update each other, that we can share also our thoughts about this different, strange time that we are living, time that I hope will never come back, that we will pass it and we forget it, and that we will meet each other face to face as human beings, and not only by screens. And with Tzvika Nir's permission, I would like to say, to announce, to think, to believe that we will have another evening like that in few months, maybe in maybe
around Passover.
Maybe around Passover, or with Primavera, with springtime, and maybe we will bring a different light then. So with this kind of hope, I would like to finish this evening, to close this evening. But before everything else, I would like to thank the Hebrew Writers Association for this effort, for the big effort they did for this evening, to Tzvika Nir, to Meir Uziel, to Nira Tuval, to Itai that is behind all the technology. And thank you very much. Did I miss anything, Tzvika?
Always we miss something, but it doesn't matter. I think it was a good evening, interesting evening. I didn't believe it will succeed so goodly, so fine. I look at your faces, and every face is so beautiful. So I don't know, maybe I don't see well, or maybe the candles, or maybe the lights, or whatever. But thank you very much, Chava, for your efforts, and everybody. I'm apologizing to Gerardo. I said good evening. I understand it's not evening there in Buenos Aires, right? So, okay, whatever. A good day. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much. And I believe that we will continue our conversation. And I will do my best effort to bring your...
את לא קוראת שיר?
לא, אני לא...
You're not going to read to us one of your poems? No.
אני בפעם אחרת.
Okay.
So thank you so much. תודה רבה, מאיר.
See you all. Bye bye.
ביי.
תודה רבה, תודה רבה חווה.
תודה לכם.
כל טוב.
חנוכה שמח.
תודה. לילה טוב.
לילה טוב.
לילה טוב.
ביי.